Let's take a look at ratios and proportions. Okay, a ratio, generally speaking, compares two or more terms. In this lesson, we're going to go over ratios and proportions. Let's start with ratios. So, in general, a ratio compares two or more quantities. So, for example, we could be comparing the number of boys to the number of girls in a class. So the ratio could be 3 boys to 2 girls. Okay, this is one way of writing it. There's actually 3 ways to write a ratio. You could also write it as 3 boys to 2 girls. Or we could actually just write it out, 3 boys to 2 girls. All 3 of these have the same exact meaning. Okay, now proportions state that 2 ratios are equal. So, an example of a proportion would be that 3 boys to 2 girls equals 12 boys to 8 girls. So these are equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios. And we can reduce this, obviously. If we divide this by 4, we'll get 3. Divide this by 4, we get 2, so we see that they equal. Another way to check if 2 ratios are equal or if they're proportionate would be to cross multiply. 3 times 8 is 24. 12 times 2 is 24 also. So they are in proportion. Most test questions aren't going to ask you to just prove that these 2 ratios are proportionate. Instead, we'll have to solve for missing variable. So, like if we knew that the ratio was 3 boys to 2 girls, if that's given, and then it gave us one of these values, like, for example, 12 boys, they'll ask us how many girls are there if there are 12 boys and there's a ratio of 3 boys to 2 girls. So let's go over an example like that. So, in a class, the ratio is 3 boys to 2 girls. And we'll say there are 21 boys. How many girls? Well, when solving a proportion, I think the most important thing to do is write down how we're going to set it up. Because we're going to have one ratio equals another ratio at some number here, a number in the denominator, number in the numerator, number in the denominator. We don't want to mix up where we put our quantities. So we always want to write down how we're setting it up. So I'm going to put boys, and then on the bottom, girls. So let's start with the given ratio. There's 3 boys for every 2 girls. So this is the ratio that we know. This is the actual class size. So it says there are 21 boys. Okay, we set it up so boys are on top, so we put the 21 here. And the question is how many girls? So girls are unknown, so that's going to be our variable, x. Now we just cross multiply. 3x equals 42. So we have to find out what value of x would make these two equal. We're just going to divide by 3. And we get that x is 14. So that means there are 14 girls. So make sure when you have a ratio and you're setting proportion, write down how you're setting it up. Otherwise, we can make a mistake. If we put the 21 down here, we would have gotten the wrong answer. Let's look at another question. This question involves a ratio and a total. So in the previous question we had a ratio and we had one of those quantities. So again, I'll give you an example. The ratio is 3 boys to 2 girls. And they give us one of these values, like they gave us the number of boys, the number of girls. We'll set up a proportion. Boys over girls equals boys over girls. But if they don't give us one of these values, if they give us the total number of students, for example, we have to solve this a different way. So if they said the ratio is 3 boys to 2 girls, and there are 40 students total, and the question might be, how many boys are there? Well, we can't do this type of thing because we'll have boys over girls. So we have 3 boys, 2 girls. They want to know how many boys. So we put x here. But we don't know this number either. We don't know how many girls there are. We have a total. There's 40 total. Can't put 40 here. That's not the number of girls. We have to solve this a different way. So let's go over how we're going to solve this. Let's make a little table first. So let's say there are 3 boys and 2 girls. That means there's 5 students total. Or we could double this, double the number of boys. 6 boys, we'll have to double the number of girls. 4 girls, 10 total. If we do times 3, we'll have 9 boys, 6 girls, 15 total. If we multiply the original ratio by 4, we'll have 12 boys and 8 girls, so 20 total. So just to go over, this was times 2 times 2. This was times 3 times 3. And then this one was times 4 times 4. Look at this. This is also times 2 times 3 times 4. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. That's just part of what I want you to see. Let's look at another way that these are related. Okay, we can make this table, but it's going to take a very long time. Especially if we want to get to a number higher than 40. We're going to go on forever. Well, not forever, obviously, but we're going to go on for a pretty long time to get to 20, or to 40, or to 200, or if it was for an entire school, maybe 600 or a few thousand. You can see how this could take a long time on a test. So let's look at how they're related instead. When we were making this list, we just kept on multiplying. Times 2, times 3, times 4. Times 2, times 3, times 4. But what's important is that if you multiply boys by a certain number, you have to multiply girls by the same number. Maybe we could just look at finding out what that number is we have to multiply it by. So for example, this is 3 times 2, right? This is times 2, times 3, times 4. What if we just multiply it by some unknown, such as x? This would be 3x. This would be 2x. So we could use this and find out what x is, or we have to multiply boys by and girls by to get a number of 40 as the total students. So let me just show you. I think it would be a little bit easier to understand if we did boys plus girls. If we had boys, the number of boys and the number of girls together, we'd end up with a total number of students. Okay, we don't know how many boys there are, but it's going to be 3 times something. We don't know how many girls there are, but it's going to be 2 times that same number. Let's add up to 40. So boys will be a multiple of 3 because the ratio is 3 boys to 2 girls, and girls will be a multiple of 2, but they're going to be multiplied by the same number. So now we have an equation to solve for x. We end up with 5x equals 40. Just divide by 5. Get that x equals 8. Okay, at this point, keep in mind that 8 is not our answer. This isn't the number of boys. Boys equals 3x. So boys equals 3 times 8 because x equals 8. So the number of boys is 24. Okay, girls, 2x. So girls, 2 times 8, 16. Okay, and this makes sense because 16 plus 24 is 40. The total has to be 40. And these are, in fact, in a ratio of 3 to 2. So when I give you a ratio and a total, you're going to have to make some type of equation like this to solve for what number we have to multiply each term in a ratio by, and then actually multiply those numbers by that factor to find out how many there are of each. So 16 girls, 24 boys. In this case, 24 is the answer, of course, because the question asked how many boys.